Good evening and welcome. I am Amarachi Ubani. Tonight, Senate rejects request by President Buhari for the approval of $29.9 billion foreign loan, demands details of borrowing plan. President Buhari sues for peace in the Niger Delta as leaders from the region present a 16-point demand to end sabotage of all infrastructure in the area. The Court of Appeals Special Panel recuses itself from a case between two factions of the PDP in Ondo State over allegations of compromise by the party's factional state chairman. And the Nelson Mandela Foundation calls for the sack of South Africa president, says Jacob Zuma has failed the test of leadership.
And in business news tonight, Nigeria's Purchasing Managers Index goes back into positive territory in October as companies adjust to the economic recession.
And on sports news tonight, International Table Tennis Federation shortlists Nigeria's Haruna Quadri and 3 others for 2016 Male Star Players Year Award.
Gloria Omezeke, and from Abuja, House of Representatives to debate decision on the Code of Conduct Bureau Act, as member says amendment is in conflict with the 1999 Constitution.
We begin tonight in the nation's capital, Abuja, where the Senate today rejected the request by President Muhammadu Buhari to source a $29.9 billion loan from foreign financial institutions. The Senate leader, Senator Ali Ndume, had moved a motion for the consideration of the request, but it was subsequently set aside when it was put to a vote. In an interview with Channels Television, Senator Ndume explained that the lawmakers rejected the request because the president did not submit the details of the external borrowing plan to them.
Exactly a week ago, senators received a letter from President Muhammadu Buhari requesting approval to borrow the sum of $29.9 billion to execute key infrastructural projects across the country between 2016 and 2018. In the letter, President Buhari had explained that the external borrowing plan would be targeted at projects which cut across all sectors, with special emphasis on infrastructure, agriculture, health, education, water supply, growth, and employment generation. At the resumption of plenary this week, the Senate leader, Senator Ali Ndume, moved a motion for the consideration of the request, and it was subsequently seconded.
Mr. President, with your permission, I wish to move that the request be referred to the relevant committee for further legislative action. I so move.
Senate President Bukola Saraki then puts the motion to a vote.
Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. Let me put the question again. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The nays have it.
With that ruling, the motion was defeated. Speaking afterwards, the majority leader explains why the lawmakers voted against considering the president's request.
The presentation from Mr. President was not complete. There wasn't an attachment that is required for consideration. So we felt that taking it to the committee level without members, having a citing the details of the borrowing plans. The details of the borrowing plan is absent. That is one of the major reasons.
The Senate leader has promised to meet with the relevant members of the executive to discuss the details and do a proper presentation to the Senate at a later date. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives is yet to consider the president's request. The House had earlier called off the consideration, which was to take place on Thursday last week. There are indications that it may not be considered this week as well.
Staying with the story, the Director General of the Debt Management Office, Mr. Abraham Wankwo, has been speaking on the benefits of the external borrowing plan of the federal government. According to Mr. Wankwo, the loan, if approved by the National Assembly, will bridge the infrastructure deficits in the country.
The external borrowing program, which Mr. President has placed before the National Assembly for approval, covering 3 years, is for the Federation. It covers projects in all the states of the Federation. As you know, in Nigeria, there's no physical geographical location called the federal government. So all the railways, all the rural water projects, all the education and health projects, all the road projects are in one state of the Federation or the other. Many of them, some of the projects are multi-state projects. So Nigerians have to appreciate that the borrowing program before the National Assembly is presented by the President because by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So the procedure, for example, is that states that need rural water supply, we made their submissions to the International Economic Relations Department of the Ministry of Finance, which aggregates. So the package that the President has presented is a package for the whole country, including the borrowing, external borrowing interests of all the states of the Federation. So that should be clear. So the borrowing is borrowing of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the federal government, and the state governments. And almost all the projects are actually state projects.
Meanwhile, the federal government's option of sourcing funds from abroad to get the nation out of recession is also receiving the support of some academics and economic experts. During the opening of a conference to proffer solution to the challenge taking place at the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, Kuru, Jos, Plateau State, some of the participants explained why the loan proposal should be given the needed attention.
These things have to be targeted to productive sectors, because it's not just saying, okay, we pump money into the economy. If they are not targeted towards increasing the productive capacity of the country, then we will not be able to get out of recession. Because if you're talking about, okay, that people should focus more on locally made goods and all that, you have to increase the productive capacity of the domestic economy so that consumers will now have, a myriad of choices, within the domestic economy. Then you can talk about a reduction of import.
There are things we must do now. We can raise capital internally as well as internationally to cushion the deficits that we face currently. We should also rationalize many of the key sectors of this economy to make sure that they function better. We need a stimulus package, a discretionary fund for spending in a manner that will boost confidence of the great Nigerian people.
Joining me to take a further look at the Senate's decision today and other issues surrounding the borrowing plan of the federal government is a council member of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Dr. Ikenna Wosu. Welcome to the News at 10.
Thank you very much, Amarachi.
Well, the president is asking for $29.9 billion, and the Senate has today denied him of that. What do you make of what happened?
Well, Amarachi, I come from the organized private sector. And the organized private sector, we are very empirical. We speak with facts. We're not politicians. And we speak from the head, not from the heart. Now, the 2016 Appropriation Act, because the President has assented to it as an act, clearly was passed by the National Assembly and assented to the President on the basis that the deficit in the budget, the 6 trillion budget, the deficit of 2.2 trillion will be financed from internal and external borrowing. So he has that overall approval. The figure is 2.2 trillion. You're asking for $29.96 billion. That's approximately between 10 to 12 trillion naira, depending on the exchange rate you use. Well, your deficit is 2.2. That's for 2016 budget. We haven't done the 2017 budget. We haven't done the 2018 budget. We know you have a medium-term economic framework, the MTEF, which the Federal Executive Council has approved. But if you're taking 12 trillion naira, let me use the upper end of the exchange rate, and the budget is saying 2.2 as a deficit, the figures don't match. So for the layman on the street, it just doesn't make sense. Now, but when you announce that it's for 2016 to 2018, okay, we'll begin to look at it. But then the layman will ask, why are you moving forward when we are still talking of this fiscal year? Now, something that also worries us in the private sector, the sloppiness of the presidency in making vital presentations to the National Assembly. You see also what happened with the national budget and the issue of so many different versions of the budget.
I don't want us to,
Now you go to the same issue of this. The reason the Senate rejected it, that rejection is actually technical. The details of the request were not attached. How much exactly between dollar and naira, the tenor, the rates, the specific projects broken into specifics, not the general infrastructure for agriculture, power, blah, blah, blah.
If I'm hearing you correctly,
Yes.
you're saying, first of all, the timing is wrong because we haven't, even begun implementing the 2016 budget. And then you're also saying the amount of money being requested is way too much.
Beyond what is the deficit in the 2016 budget.
Yeah.
Even though the covering letter says it's for 2016, 2017, 2018. So the elementary understanding is that you should have attached the details. So you didn't attach the details. What the Senate, and people need to understand this right, what the Senate has done is, yes, we've rejected it because there are no details. And the Senate majority leader said, he wished he had marketed the matter first to his colleagues and that the details were attached. What it means is that it will be represented. The presidency has reacted. We shall attach, we are not disputing, we shall engage, we shall represent it. So Nigerians should expect it to be represented with the details. So, pending when the representation is done, and even when it's done, you now go to the critical issue. Is it justified to take that loan? That's the key question Nigerians are asking.
And that throws us further into debt.
Thank you. It took Dr. Okonjo-Iweala's extreme measures and President Obasanjo then, his connections worldwide with that of Mr. Okonjo-Iweala, to get Nigeria debt forgiveness, both from the Paris Club of Creditors and others. Now, you want to take us into this level of debt. And the question is it sustainable? The DG of the Debt Management Office, in his debt sustainability analysis, is saying that yes, it's sustainable. But what I will say again is that the government needs to put more information out to the public, not just the National Assembly. What we're expecting to see, even now that is with the National Assembly, is to put out, there should be a press conference by the Ministry of Finance, with our Debt Management Office DG, and other relevant people whom the Senior Special Assistant to the President on National Assembly Matters says they are working on the details, which they're going to attack. All these people are working on the details. Now, if you look at it, you ask, the question that will be asked when Parliament debates it, is there no alternative to the debt? You have the BOOT program, you're saying infrastructure basically. Is there no alternative to it so that the private sector could finance it? Secondly, a lot of people are losing track of the fact that the president's letter mentioned two things. The debt and the environment. So we shouldn't lose track of the environment of 180 billion just because the debt is rejected.
So much to talk about tonight, Dr. Kenawo. So I understand where you're coming from with all of this. You sound very passionate about the topic tonight. Thank you so much for coming on the News at 10.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
In part two, after the break, the Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission asked Nigerians to reject estimated billing by distribution companies. Find out why. Please join us again.